About a month ago, YouTube recommended me a video from KRL Mania about a train ride through Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And honestly, you couldn't skip the thumbnail. The video went pretty viral, so you've most likely already seen it. That means I'm pretty late to the party, but I still think about the footage to this day. It is basically just the driver's perspective on a train running through the city. I've never been there, but somehow I still experienced a bit of a culture shock. It's always crazy to me how different people live on the same planet. One interesting part were the tracks, which were pretty overgrown. Like the train is about to derail at any second, and I definitely wasn't the only one with those thoughts. Sometimes you can barely see the rails at all. So the tracks are overgrown, chickens try to murder themselves, people selling things right next to it, and then there's the elephant in the room. I thought the Deutsche Bahn was trash, but here it looks like you're literally driving through a garbage dump. And that immediately made me wonder whether Kinshasa even has a functioning waste management system. What I also found strange are the stops. Several stations are shown on the map and timetable, but from the cab I honestly can't really make out any kind of stations. Maybe you're able to see them, I'm certainly not. And all of this is so strange that I wanted to find out more about this place. What railway are we actually riding on here? Why does such a gigantic city have so little rail transport? And is this kind of railway situation normal across Africa? This is Kinshasa's express train. If you want to support videos like that, you could consider becoming a channel member or patron. Thanks. Chapter 1. Why is Kinshasa's railway so unusual? First, the names are a little confusing. This train starts around Matete, a commune inside Kinshasa. But there is also Matadi, a port city around 366 kilometers away. And this urban train is actually running on the Kinshasa Matadi railway. From the ground, you mostly see garbage, overgrown tracks, informal houses and markets right next to the tracks. But from above, the route actually looks quite different. As we can see, a large part runs through industrial areas, with warehouses, workshops and logistics facilities directly beside the tracks. The railway, if you can even recognize it on the Google Earth footage, also follows major roads for parts of the journey. That also answers another question I had while watching. With this much industry, is this line actually used for freight? And the answer is yes. Kinshasa sits directly on the enormous Congo River. From above, you would think this should be the perfect shipping route to the Atlantic, but downstream from Kinshasa, rapids and waterfalls make the river unnavigable. And this is a major economic disadvantage for the entire country. That is why this railway was built, to bypass that section and connect Kinshasa with the port of Matadi. So these overgrown rails are part of one of the country's most important historic transport corridors. Back in the cab, however, it doesn't really look like one. In several places we can see multiple tracks, but often only the one we are driving on seems usable. The others are heavily overgrown or in much worse condition. That limits capacity and helps explain why this feels more like a conventional local railway than efficient urban transit. One funny thing I also noticed from above is this water park. Aqua Splash DRC is sitting right between these industrial areas. Amazing stuff. Anyway, toward the end of the line, development becomes denser and we see a lot more modern buildings and high-rises. That's where we also get closer to the Congo River. And at the end we reach Gare Centrale Kin Est. The station is much larger than you would need it for just one train line. We can see several more tracks, but again, large parts look unused or overgrown. So we are on the urban end of a historic railway connecting Kinshasa with the Atlantic Gateway at Matadi. Chapter 2. Why does a city this big have so little rail transport? This is probably the strangest part. Kinshasa has an estimated population at over 18.5 million people in its metropolitan area, making it the nation's most densely populated city and Africa's third largest metro area. This city grows so fast that it's expected to reach more than 50 million people in the next decades. That is a problem, because its passenger rail network is extremely limited for a city of this size. From above, you can see how enormous the city has become. The older parts sit closer to the Congo River, while the huge residential districts stretch far east and south, growing faster than major infrastructure could keep up. So most people rely on roads, buses, minibuses, taxis and informal transport. And this is very bad. Suddenly, this old railway corridor becomes much more important. It already runs toward the center, and there are plans to use parts of the existing network for the wider Matete project, which plans to add 300 km of urban rail network to transform mass transit and ease severe traffic congestion in the city. I honestly hope for the best and hope corrupt governments won't destroy the hopes of millions of people. The train itself has also a strange history. These cars are former JR Hokkaido Kiha 183 diesel trains from Japan. After being retired, 7 cars were supposed to go to Sierra Leone. That deal was cancelled, even though the trains had already traveled to Freetown. From there, they were redirected to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So, we are watching an old Japanese express train running through Kinshasa on a railway built during the colonial period. The trains can reach around 100 km per hour, but that doesn't help much when the track underneath them is in so poor condition. And now, back to the rubbish. Kinshasa produces around 12,000 tons of waste every day, and according to the World Bank, most of it is still openly dumped or burned. So our first impression from the cab ride wasn't completely wrong. The city does have waste collection, but nowhere near enough for a city of this size. At the same time, I don't want to pretend this one corridor represents all of Kinshasa, but it looks rough, to be honest. Chapter 3. Is this what railways across Africa look like? Watching this cab ride, you could easily come away thinking that railways across Africa all look like this, but that would be too simple. Many African railways were originally built for specific purposes, connecting ports with mining areas or agricultural regions, or like here, bypassing a difficult river section. What they often did not create was one dense interconnected passenger network like we know from much of Europe. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is a good example. The country is enormous, but its railways are divided into several separate systems, so you cannot simply board a train in Kinshasa and travel across the entire country. Historically, rail and river transport worked together instead, while many lines later suffered from underinvestment, conflict and poor maintenance. But there is also another side to African railways today. Morocco has high-speed rail. Tanzania is building new standard gauge lines. Kenya and Ethiopia have opened modern intercity railways. So no, this ride is not representative of every railway in Africa. What it does show is how difficult it can be to turn an old railway into useful transport for a modern megacity. And that is why I found this journey so interesting. Thanks for watching and servus.